iPhone. It's been around for more than a decade. Since 2007, the iPhone has been an undeniable icon of technology. Starting as the first all-screen multi-touch smartphone, over time it would evolve into a powerful computer that would fit in the palm of your hands, often paired with what people call the best camera system on a smartphone. Yet what we find now is that the iPhone doesn't carry as much magic as it used to. The iPhone, once known for innovations like Touch and Face ID or even setting new design standards like the iPhone 6, now feels a bit plain. Look at the iPhone 13, 14, and 15. Could you notice a difference? Probably not. Now look at the iPhone 5S and 6. It is clear that Apple once used to embrace design changes that felt exciting. So what happened to the iPhone? It feels like its design has remained the same for several years now and its innovation has hit a wall. To find out, we need to go back in time.
Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
When the iPhone first released in 2007, it had no keyboard, no pick up or decline button, and if you look at smartphones of that time, it was definitely an odd one out. Almost everyone had a keyboard on their phone, and yet Apple was brave enough to challenge the rest of the industry. It only had a singular home button, and everything else was done by the touchscreen. This new design, as of course with every new technology, drew some skepticism, and many thought that such a product that did not satisfy business customers would not sell well. In fact, Steve Ballmer, CEO of Microsoft at that time, even said that the iPhone was the most expensive phone ever and that it was not going to sell well due to the fact that it has no keyboard. Fortunately for Apple, Ballmer was ultimately wrong. The iPhone wasn't just successful, it redefined how we use and interact with technology in our life. The simplicity that iPhone offered us consumers was priceless and eventually pushed iPhone itself to the consumer market. And with each new version, Apple introduced features that redefined what a smartphone could do. The iPhone 3 brought 3G connectivity and the App Store, whilst the 4 wowed us with its first redesign and Retina display. Then the 4S introduced Siri, showing Apple's willingness to experiment with new ideas. And although Steve Jobs would sadly pass in October of 2011, Apple would still go on to innovate, this time under the leadership of Tim Cook. For a time, they stuck to Steve's old design philosophy that stated a phone should remain one-hand friendly, and this worked well for a time. In 2013, Apple would release the iPhone 5S, and although it looked similar to the iPhone 4, it was very much different in terms of internals. Apple marketed the A7 as a chip built on a desktop-class architecture, which, although was a bit hyperbolic, eventually showed where the company was truly headed: Apple Silicon. By 2014, things have started to change. Tim Cook, now 3 years into his role as CEO, showed he could lead Apple into new territory whilst honoring its commitment to innovation. The iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, which were released that year, was absolutely gorgeous, featuring larger screens that catered to consumer demand set by competitors like Samsung. And in my opinion, it's probably one of the most beautiful iPhones ever engineered. I mean, just look at the curves. It's so seamless and it feels great in the hand. Now, although the iPhone 6 went against Steve Jobs' one-hand friendly philosophy, it paid off very massively, with the iPhone 6 lineup selling over 220 million units. It showed that Apple could still innovate even though Steve Jobs was no longer present at the helm. But the real game changer would come in 2017, and it would come in the form of the iPhone X. With its stunning OLED display and for the first time ever on iPhone, Face ID, it rocked an all-new design that felt fresh and modern. Unlike any other phone at that time, it did not have a bottom chin and was virtually bezel-less. The 10 marked a dramatic shift in design and technology for Apple, making it one of the most transformative iPhones since the original. In fact, every flagship iPhone that has been released since the 10 has followed the same design philosophy. It would all be bezel-less, all-screen, and it would have a cutout for Face ID. The iPhone X's innovation was ultimately what laid the very foundation for the modern iPhone. With the iPhone X being so innovative, it almost felt like the perfect iPhone. You could hold it with one hand nicely, it had a lot of processing power, and it had great cameras. But this is exactly what would cause the narrative of iPhone to change. With the iPhone X setting new standards for what smartphones could be, expectations skyrocketed, and Apple had reached a point where the design and tech of iPhone was almost perfect to the consumer. But this also created a paradox. How do you follow up a product that already feels perfect to the consumer? In 2019, with the iPhone 11, Apple would renew their innovations with an all-new camera system that featured night mode, an ultra-wide lens, and the A13 Bionic chip, which was so advanced that it literally was faster than a desktop chip. Mind you, the i9 9900K. The design and feature set of the iPhone 11 would be the last time where Apple truly changed something. Although it still featured the same stainless steel and aluminum design, its cameras alone were enough to mark it as a true pro phone. The iPhone 12, unveiled the following year, brought some meaningful updates, including the return of the nostalgic flat edges, 5G, and MagSafe. However, these updates felt more like refinements than actual changes. Slapping magnets to the back of a phone doesn't necessarily scream innovation. And in my opinion, this is where the iPhone really started to fall off, becoming more of a luxury item rather than a functional tool. Now compare that to competing brand Samsung, who are pushing more aggressively with their market strategy and added countless features to their flagship S20. Although the majority of these features would end up being gimmicks, like the space zoom that actually had no practical use. In 2021, 13 lineup came out and it looked almost the same as the iPhone 12, if not for the smaller notch. Now the 13 actually did bring some improvement to the iPhone, like a higher refresh rate display and better battery life. Besides, Apple has done upgrades like this where externally the phones are similar, but internally they haven't changed. These updates were originally designated as the S line of the iPhone, like for example the iPhone 6s or the iPhone XS. But the problem here is that iPhone has kept the same design for over 5 years. Mind you, the same design found on the iPhone 11. Although yes, we have faster chips, yes, we have slightly better cameras, ProRes and spatial recording, but aside from that, is it even worth upgrading to newer models? Honestly, I don't think so. Although the build quality and feel of iPhone remain premium, I feel that the innovation that defined its early years have faded. iPhone stagnation could be linked to Apple themselves choosing to remain conservative and prioritizing product stability over rapid development. Compare that to Samsung, who has been pushing for more cutting-edge technology like foldable screens. In the end, Apple's approach with the iPhone has brought them great success and consistency, but it begs the question of whether the iPhone will continue down this path of recycling the same design over and over again. I personally think that if Apple continues to recycle designs, they risk losing an edge. Of course, Apple can rely on iPhone's legacy and its software niches. However, those are very fragile. People have a tendency to want more, and if they feel like they're not getting more, they might start to look somewhere else. When other brands like Samsung and Xiaomi are pushing boundaries with their own products like the Z Foldables or the absurdly fast charging of Xiaomi phones, even the most loyal fans will start considering Android. So yeah, if Apple doesn't step it up soon, they might risk falling behind in the tech market, a market that has been evolving faster than ever. Tech is a highly competitive business, and failing to innovate can be fatal. Just look at the case of BlackBerry. But as we look into the future, what do you think Apple needs to do with their iPhone? And will it be enough to keep you from considering alternatives? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching and have a nice day. Command 4 signing out.